Up to my left you see construction work going on in College to First. That's the Irish Language Secondary School. Originally it was the home of a man called Riddles. He was a warehouse owner in Belfast. He was a Protestant, and the story is that he wouldn't let his servants shop on the Falls Road. And when he was down, he asked his daughters not to let his land or his house fall into the hands of Catholics. But they didn't care, and they sold it to nuns who opened a hospital, and it said that John Riddles now haunts the place. Just ahead is on Culterland. It was a Presbyterian church right up until 1984. We're going to go there. It's now the centre of the Irish language. This area of Belfast is known as the Gaeltacht, and the Gaeltacht is an area where people speak Irish or use the Irish language. You see the mural here just as we turn on the right hand side. It's for Common them on. That's for the Women's Brigade within the IRA. And it says at the bottom of it, near Session Negotiation Number A, no freedom without freedom for women. Go ahead.
Sorry, I want to just tell them that.
But the British government ignored it, and because Countess Margaret was a member of Sinn Féin still to this day have an abstentionist policy where they don't enter into Westminster Parliament. So coming up on the left you see a street called Montgomery Street, and if you break Montgomery down, it means American Committee for Relief in Ireland. And what happened was those houses were bombed in the Second World War, and money was sent from America to rebuild the houses. And you bought a raffle ticket, and if you were lucky enough you won a house. Just over to the right here you have a mural of Marie Drum. Marie Drum was the Vice President of Sinn Féin. She was in a hospital after undergoing a cataract operation when loyalists went in and shot her, killed her. This wall is known as the Collusion Wall. In West Belfast there's a lot of people who've been killed either at the hands of the British Army, the police, or loyalists working for those organisations. And again over to the left hand side you have another garden of remembrance, and that's for this area, that's for Beachman. You notice these are the old tight narrow streets of Belfast. These are what was called 2 up, 2 downs. So you had 2 bedrooms and 2 rooms downstairs. These type of streets were basically done away with at the behest of a man called Brigadier Frank Kitson. Kitson said that this was ideal for urban warfare, and the IRA fought in these streets. And most people left the front doors open, the back doors open, so the IRA volunteers could run in and out and escape from the British Army. The British Army were left wanting in the middle of the streets. You have to remember, a lot of British soldiers come over here were 18, 19 years of old. Sorry, right. They were 18, 19 years of age, and they didn't really know what was going on here. They didn't want to know what was going on. Basically, it's just a job. So what happened then? They introduced cul-de-sacs. So all new developments across this country, you're not allowed to build straight streets anymore. It has to be cul-de-sacs. Just ahead of us we see a chimney stack, and that's a remnants of the old linen mills. Ireland was the biggest producer of linen in the world at one stage, and all the buildings around here and all the churches is where the people congregated, and this is where the linen mills and the owners built, and they built the terraced houses. So this is the Springfield Road. 1969, loyalists came across and attacked West Belfast. Everything on my right, from here down to the city centre, was burnt, and everything on the left. That's why you have the new houses. I'm going to go right here.
This one here?
Yep. And all the houses on the left hand side would have been the old type houses. We're going to head now to Clonard Monastery. Go right, please. You notice too that some people still have the flag, the national flag with the football symbol on it. Straight ahead. This is for the European Cup that was played just a few weeks ago. This building is the home of the peace process. This is where the peace process started. Father Ollie Greed was a priest in here, resided in here. Jerry Adams would worship in here, and Father Ollie Greed and Father Jerry Reynolds would have got Jerry Adams and sat and had talks, discussed a peace process. And it was from here that the peace process flourished. Incidentally, 3 rooms were used over on the right-hand side of the building. The dormitories and the libraries were used as rooms for holding the talks. All 3 rooms were bugged by the British. In fact, the doors of the library were taken off and used, or were sanded, sent away to be sanded and revarnished. And when they come back, all the doors had numbers to coordinate them with their existing door frames. And the door of the library, it came back with a bug buried inside the door, but it came back with a number 007. And again, the flats here, oh sorry, we don't have flats anymore. The apartments here on the left, these were the original linen mills. Originally, cotton was the main export, but with the American Civil War and the blockade of the southern states, cotton dried up. So the Huguenots who went to England after being persecuted in France, they came here and opened the linen mills. To spread the word, spread the news of the rebellion. So we're back out onto the Falls Road here. Folks, it's a bit chocker block today because they're extending the road, they're widening the road here this last year, and they're getting ready for a rapid transport system. Well, basically a rapid transport system in Belfast is 2 buses hammered together. And on the left, coming up here, Sinn Féin headquarters, and as we pass it, you can look back and see the mural of Bobby Sands. Bobby was the 1981 hunger striker, one of 10 men to die on hunger strike. He was elected an MP again to the Westminster Parliament. He's the only surviving, or he's the only member of the Westminster Parliament not to be given a minute's silence on his death. He survived 66 days on hunger strike. The longest hunger strike we've had here in modern times is the Lord Mayor of Cork, Terence McSweeney. He survived 74 days. And if you look up the streets here to your left, you'll see the Peace Wall. And that's a wall that divides the Catholics and Protestants. Over to the right, we have a garden of remembrance again for the lower falls. Let's get down to the lights. Or if you want, swing in here, seeing it's a meeting. We'll go to the meeting and we'll stop there and let it see. Over to the right hand side you'll see towering over the houses, that's St Peter's Cathedral, and then Divis Tower. There was a British Army barrack on top of Divis Tower. It was taken away 2004, and now the top 2 floors, sorry, are the penthouse suite. There's a 2-year waiting list to get onto this tower block. Elvin has become a West Belfast taxi driver. Yeah. Just now has taken over, and what we're going to do is we're going to stop here for a few minutes and let you see this wall. This is known as the International Wall, and you have murals of Nelson Mandela, Frederick Douglass, and round the front of the Falls Road, Divis Street here, you will have the whole wall has been dedicated to the 1916 Rising. But again, must emphasise, be careful of the road. So we're going to take it now to the peace walls, and these walls exist here in Belfast to separate the communities. So you have one side of the peace wall, this side we're on here would be the Catholic side, on the far side would be the Protestant side. And what we'll have to do first of all is drive through a set of gates. And these gates will close every evening around about 6:30, and they close at the weekends and stay closed at the weekends. I'm going to get Calvin a black taxi and he can drive on the Falls Road now. The black taxis, you see them, the old London style taxis, they were introduced here as part of the conflict here, because in areas like this public transport was stopped, sometimes for up to a year at a time, and people bought taxis and used the taxis then for public transport. By the way, the hills all around Belfast, they're called the Black Hills and the Black Mountain and the Divis Mountain, again from the Gaelic for black, which is Duhish. They're basalt rock, they're basically volcanic plugs. So just ahead of us you see a section of the peace wall. Originally it started off as an 8-foot high corrugated fence. We're going to go right. It was started in 1970 by the British Army. They built this as a temporary measure to keep the two sides apart. It's now extended to over 40 foot high, and there are over 90 walls in Belfast. And they're called peace walls because they give people peace of mind that they can sleep in their beds at night. And the first wall was built in the city cemetery. And the city cemetery was the Protestant and Jewish cemetery. And in the 1860s they decided to let Catholics be buried in the cemetery. But the Catholics had to come in the back door, the back gate of the cemetery. But the Catholic bishops insisted first off, before the buried Catholics in the cemetery, that a 9-foot trench be dug and a wall built underground to separate the Catholics from the Protestants of death structure. And within a few weeks people had vandalised it and rode over the top of it. So this area we're in now is a Protestant area, and it's called the Upper Shankill. And the Upper Shankill would come under the control of a group called the UVF, the Ulster Volunteer Force. The bottom half of the Shankill where we're going to go to, it came under control of the UDA, the Ulster Defence Association. In 2000 they had a feud. Basically there was a power vacuum here. They weren't being controlled, the MI5 were pulling the strings throughout the conflict here. And they stopped after 1998. And as I said, there was a power vacuum, and they had a feud. They had a falling out between the Upper Shankill and the Lower Shankill. 7 people were killed during that feud. A lot of people moved out of the Lower Shankill into an area called Glenbryn over in North Belfast. And in Glenbryn, they had a Catholic girls' school. And the Protestants that moved out of the Lower Shankill into Glenbryn objected to the Catholic girls walking through their area in the mornings and coming back, returning from school that day. And it led to a 3-month period where the British Army and the police physically had to make a human tunnel to get the girls in and out of school. And these are girls aged between 4 years of age and 12 years of age. So we're going on the Shankill Road here, and again the Shankill Road, like everywhere in Ireland, gets its name originally from the Gaelic language. So the Irish word for road is boher. Shan means old, and Kill is a churchyard. So boher and Shan Kill is the old churchyard road. And as you can see with the buntings and the flags, the people here see themselves as British. And it wasn't until 1985, with the signing of the Anglo-Irish Agreement, that the Catholic population, the nationalist population, could claim to be Irish citizens. And it was then that the tricolour, the Irish national flag, was allowed to be flown here. It was illegal to fly the tricolour here right up until 1985. So as we go down the Shankill Road, if these lights ever change, you'll see murals on the upper Shankill for UVF, for Thiepval, for the First World War, for Queen Elizabeth. So you'll see them from left to right on the way down. The first one over to the right is the flute bands. These bands march every marching season, and that's from the end of June, or sorry, the start of June to the end of September. Again, coming up on the left, you have one for UVF men who have been killed. In 1993, the IRA placed a bomb in a fish shop here, just to our left. It's just where the dry cleaners is. And 10 people were killed. And it was not illegal, again, to be a member of the UDA right up until 1985. But when they carried out a lot of the killings, they used groups that were smaller groups but affiliated to the UDA, like the UFF, like the Red Hand Commando. So with the red cars coming out, you run in. And as we go in here, you see some of the murals. And as I said earlier, Loyalists or Protestants were the first to paint the murals, and they're basically marking territory and let you know who's in charge of these areas. The one on the left coming up, nothing about us without us is for us. That was said after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and it meant basically that the people of New Orleans weren't consulted about the redevelopment of their area. And the same thing happened here. The community workers here, community leaders, took the developers to the European Court, and they won their case. They basically had to go back to the drawing boards. They were building houses with 4 bedrooms. Basically, you build houses with 4 bedrooms, you're attracting people with large families. That wouldn't be Catholic. That wouldn't be Protestant, that would be more Catholics, Eastern Europeans. And again, just where all the taxis are parked, if you look over your left shoulder, you'll see King Billy, William of Orange. Just ahead is a mural to Top Gun, Stephen McKaig. He got the accolade Top Gun 3 years in a row because of the amount of Catholics that he killed. He killed 15 Catholics. He physically pulled the trigger on 15 people, but he was involved in 58 murders. You're going around to the right that way. He died in 2000 of a drug overdose. When we come to the end of this row of houses, you'll see the field has been scorched. They came in yesterday with bulldozers and cleared up. This is where the bonfire was set, and it was lit on the 11th of July. And if you look across, you see the workers, men in the 4 houses that were set on fire by the bonfire. So the sparks from the bonfire went across and basically got at 4 houses. Now we'll go zigzag again. Go up to the right, then we'll... Sorry, up the left, go up right up the top, then we'll turn and come back down.
That's the old courthouse.
So we're going to zip in here. First they were against it, and then, as you can see, we just drove in, nobody bats an eyelid. Calvin, will you pull in somewhere?
Yeah.
Now you remember the start of this morning when we went to Queen's University? George Lanyon. Now George Lanyon designed both buildings either side of us here. The building on our right hand side is the old courthouse. It was built in 1850 and it closed in 1998. And it closed because we got new courts down at Laganside. The building itself was put up for sale. A local property developer bought it and he was going to convert it into a hotel. And he bought it for £1. Now the kids from the area got in and vandalised it over 2 years and he pulled out of the deal. So when you were sentenced in here, you were taken downstairs, there's a tunnel under the road, takes you straight up into the prison. The prison is Crumlin Road prison. It was opened in 1846. The first 106 prisoners were marched here from Carrickfergus, which is 10 miles north of us. They were men, women and children. Records in the prison show kids, children were put in the prison for stealing a slice of bread for 6 months. Also show records of children sent to Australia for stealing 4 slices of bacon. When George Lanyon designed the prison, we had no gallows. We had public executions here right up till 1901. You were hanged from the front gate. So people gathered here to watch the executions. The last man to be hanged in that building was in 1961, Robert McLattery. He raped and murdered a girl called Pearl Gamble down in Newry, and he was hanged just before Christmas 1961. The last IRA man to be hanged in there was Tom Williams. Tom was 19 years of age when he was hanged on the 2nd of September 1942, and his body lay within the prison, and as part of the peace process it was only released back to the Republican community, and his body's now buried with his mother in Milltown Cemetery. Tour, which involves staying in overnight and you wait on the ghost coming. Now I don't believe in ghosts, but I done the tour one time and they took me into the tunnel and left me. And I can tell you, for all the hairs I have on the back of my neck, they raised up. This is the hospital on the left, this is the Mater Hospital, and this is where Maura Drum, the guard who was shot, actually just after recuperating from a cataract operation.
Oh, I know.
It's a conveyor belt.
Yeah. Like a pirate convention.
Yeah, it's the same with a heart attack now, you just get a stent. Back to work. Belfast terminologies. The left hand side of the road would be Catholic, the right hand side is Protestant. See Clifton Street Orange Hall on the right hand side, King William of Orange. And just behind the trees in front of us is the Clifton Street Poorhouse. It was built in 1774, and during the Garden of More, the great hunger here, if you wanted to be fed, all you had to do was convert from Catholicism to Protestantism. You went in there and you got fed. So there's a rhyme that says they sold their souls for penny rolls and hurry slabs of bacon.
Chuck can just barely walk, he's pushing it around.
It stretches out of the Belfast log. And William Dunn Crew was a man who dredged Belfast log to make it a deep sea port. Before Belfast log was dredged, Carrickfergus was the main deep sea port here. You see Harlem and Wolff, the cranes, Samson and Goliath towering over Queen's Island, and incidentally it's called Queen's Island after Queen Victoria. But the shipyard itself was opened in 1862 and it took up 300 acres. It built all the White Star Line ships, Titanic, Olympia, and every ship within the White Star Line. Today its principal business is wind turbines and refurbishments of oil rigs. There are no ships built here anymore. Over to the left, Home Bargains. That used to be the Gallagher's tobacconists. It said that William Gallagher was the biggest mass murderer in Irish history. actually produce that much tobacco.
No ships built in Belfast anymore, or
No.
just there?
No, there's no ships built in Belfast. And all the land of Queen's Island is owned by the Harbour Commission. And every business pays a revenue to the Harbour Commission. And as we get to the top of the bridge here, if you look down to the left, you see the sandstone building, which is the Harbour Commission building. It's another lovely, fascinating building, just behind the church here. So just beyond Belfast Lock, the lagoon here, you see the SSE building. That's the home of Belfast ice hockey team, the Belfast Giants. Then you see the Titanic building behind it. It represents the bow of a ship, the bow of 4 ships in fact, and it's 90 metres high, and each is clad with 3,000 sheets of metal. The first 2,000 are folded individually, the last 1,000 every 20th sheet. When the sun shines in Belfast, it's said to reflect up onto the bow of the ship, represents the bow of the ship going through the waves. And it took £100 million to develop this area. In 2007, they started pouring the concrete for the foundations. And 24 hours, 700 cement lorries poured their concrete a rate of 1 every 2 minutes. And it was the biggest foundation pouring in the island of Ireland. And as you go round to the Titanic building, you'll see outside small wooden stools, some short, some long, and they represent Morse code for Titanic, save our souls. Now over to the right, in between the gap of the buildings here, you see a hill in the distance. That's Cave Hill. Now, Cave Hill locally is known as Napoleon's Nose, and it's said to be a man in recline. It looks like a giant lying down. And if you look at it when we go around, you'll see it does in fact look like a giant lying on his back, and it was the inspiration for Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels. As we turn here, you see the launch on the left hand side. This is the Nomadic. This in fact was the launch that was used to bring passengers to Titanic from Cherbourg. The red brick building just ahead of us is the Titanic drawing office. That's where Titanic was designed. And in between the new building and the old drawing office, you'll see stakes hammered into the ground. That's in fact where Titanic was built.
The moonlight on the Shannon is a sight to see. The sunlight on Killarney's lakes mean home, sweet home to me. Of nature's many blessings,
if you go down to the bottom, you see the stakes.
the Emerald Isle.
I see this is where the drag dock was, the Titanic, where it was built. And over behind that, you'll see Titanic Studios. This is where the Game of Thrones is filmed.
To stroll again through Antrim's glens and see the waterfalls, to sleep beneath the mystic hills in dear old Donegal, to walk along Lough Erne and hear the seagulls cry.
Folks, this is Brian Levy. I hope you enjoyed your wee tour of Belfast this morning. Hope you enjoyed Titanic. Okay, thank you.